Kyle Whittingham finally got BYU back on something. All right? Let's be honest here. BYU's been getting the better of Kyle Whittingham for a while now. On the field, off the field. And I say that even realizing that Whittingham did poach a couple of coaches, including the defensive coordinator at BYU. But if we're looking at the full scope of the scoreboard, that seems like like some garbage time points to maybe cover the spread for Whittingham. But BYU's won the last 3 games that they played against Kyle Whittingham. Each of the last 2 were particularly painful for Whittingham, one of which came on his home field. And BYU has just had more success in general. Like at a time when Whittingham was trying to wrap up his career at Utah as a total legend and get things figured out. And it seems like at least a part of the motivation to come back this past year was like, hey, yes, obviously get the program back in a better place. But a part of that is take what I'm sure he viewed as the rightful place on top of the Holy War rivalry and beat BYU. But it did not happen. BYU won 12 games. They went to the Big 12 championship game. Utah did not in either of its 2 seasons in the Big 12. And then after Whittingham did pluck a couple of coaches, BYU kept everybody away. They kept all the players on the roster outside of Max Alford, who was a moderate to minor contributor on the defense. All the starters stayed. Where did Kyle Whittingham get BYU then, you say, John? Well, one of the players that was in the portal, there was a really interesting story, especially when you saw Parker Kingston tweet some eyeballs out there at the transfer announcement. That was Smith Snowden. Okay, Smith Snowden, defensive back, I guess, / receiver. He played some both ways this past year for the Utes. But Smith Snowden, great player, second team All-Big 12 performer at corner. One of a handful of key Utah defenders to go into the portal this cycle. John Henry Daly there. They had a defensive tackle who came on at the end of the year, also there, that are both headed to Michigan. And BYU got a visit here, all right? Parker Kingston, maybe the eyeballs were just about getting a visit. That did happen. He's not going to BYU, though. BYU got a visit. So did Oregon. So did Michigan. I believe Notre Dame was the other in the mix there for Smith Snowden. And finally, Kyle Whittingham gets a dub over BYU. Smith Snowden is not going to transfer in state. He is headed to the Michigan Wolverines. So congrats to Kyle Whittingham on that. The trend lately has been that BYU has just gotten the best again of Whittingham in the portal. That did not happen right now, but that begs the question, is BYU actually the real loser here? Who is the real loser in all of this? Smith Snowden sweepstakes, Kyle Whittingham v. BYU. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, totally free. Appreciate you guys doing that. I would say it's clearly Utah. Unfortunately for Ute fans here, it is Utah who is the real loser in all of this, because Smith Snowden to BYU would have been a luxury item. Now, a very nice luxury item, and I'm talking about trying to stack all the elite talent that you can to go up against Texas Tech and close that gap. That's what you got to be thinking about right now if you're BYU. This was still a luxury item. BYU's, they've got things in pretty good order there. Had you lost Evan Johnson, maybe this would have been more important. But Evan Johnson's coming back. He's part of that big core on defense that is coming back. Utah, meanwhile, loses a guy who's been a multi-year starter, returning second-team All-Big 12 player. I think some on the Utah side might push back and say, hey, for what he was asking financially, not totally sure if he was worth it. I have at least heard that from some on the Utah side. I don't know what specifically he was asking for. I don't know the ins and outs of that. But again, I know it's a guy who definitely has some real name value. And he is a second-team All-Big 12 performer who has been a 2-year starter. I think in an ideal world, you certainly wouldn't have wanted to lose him, and certainly wouldn't have wanted to lose him to Kyle Whittingham in the transfer portal. And Whittingham just continues to be brutal to Utah, man. I mean, any thought that Kyle Whittingham was going to take it easy on Utah here is just not the case. You had 6 position coaches or coordinators going with him off of the Utah staff. You had the strength and conditioning, he pulls the strength and conditioning guy as well. Now we're talking about 4 really key players, again, at least in name, right? And then I haven't even gotten to, I should have teased that out earlier. I haven't even gotten to the biggest part here, where Whittingham is taking now Utah's best 2026 recruit. Salisi Moa. My apologies if I'm botching that name. I probably am, but 4-star prospect. He's announcing tomorrow at an all-star game what people anticipate to be a flip to Michigan. Oh boy, this is the one that I feel like I've seen the most angry Utah reaction to. Like, all right, man, you're going to take Henry Daly, who was an elite pass rusher this year, but he has an injury that may keep him sidelined for a good chunk of the season next year. Okay, fine. Overpay to go take him and get him for part of the season, see how that goes. You want to take Smith Snowden and what his asking price was, like, all right, kind of hurts. You want to take J.J. Buchanan? That's the other one that I really felt like people thought hurt. Total stud freshman, 427 yards, 5 touchdowns. But, okay, taking J.J. Buchanan. You're going to take a starting defensive tackle, Jonah Lea'ha. All right, fine. But now you're even gutting the top recruit that we had in this class, the number 1 player in the state of Utah. You're going to take this kid too. Now, this is a kid who was he took a visit to Michigan when Sharon Moore was still the coach there. So there are some pretty obvious ties with what's going on there. But this was a huge recruiting coup, a big recruiting win for Utah when they got him to flip from Tennessee in December. That was like early December that happened. That was a huge deal. This is an elite recruit. And now it's just like, damn, like when does it stop? Like Whittingham didn't stop at the staff. He didn't stop at like just offensive staff. It's defensive staff. He didn't stop at just Jason Beck. It was tenured guys that had been there a long time. He didn't stop at minor contributors. He went into full-on playmakers, old guys, young guys, whatever it might be. And now it's young guys, not even there on campus yet. Big recruiting wins that you had the 2026 recruiting class. So, Kyle Whittingham did finally get a W over BYU, which has been a minute since he's had one of those. Utah does take an L. It's not all bad. All right. Devin Dampier is coming back. Bird Ficklin is coming back. And if you do go look, in fairness to Utah, if you go look at the transfer portal classes right now on 3, they're right next to each other. Ironically, Utah and Michigan are literally right next to each other in transfer portal class rankings. And in fact, as of a couple hours ago when I looked, Utah was 1 spot ahead of Michigan. So I'm not saying that this is all total panic time, but Whittingham has definitely done some real damage here. As the dust has settled, Whittingham's gotten a couple on BYU. They've gotten more certainly on him. Utah has taken some real damage. Like that ship has taken on some water because of Whittingham going. And if you want to, as I've seen some Utah fans do, you want to trace it really all the way back, it's due to Sharon Moore's infidelities, basically. That is why this has all happened. I mean, just insane timing, the way that it went down. But Utah did not win this war with Kyle Whittingham. Well, if you are watching this as a clip, click this video to learn more about what Whittingham stealing from Utah has done to his legacy there.